AEW made a big backstage hire this week. Michael Mansury, the former vice president of global television production for WWE, has been hired by AEW as their new senior vice president and co-executive producer. A fellow Hofstra grad. He graduated the year after me. He started with WWE as a production assistant in March of 2009. He worked his way up the ranks to a VP role in 2016 before giving his notice and leaving the company in 2020. A lot of people in the company, were shocked when he announced that he was going to be leaving. And a lot of them tried to convince him not to leave. Sam Roberts did a great interview with Mansury about a year ago on his YouTube channel that was very insightful. Didn't get a lot of traffic, but I thought it was a very insightful interview. There was a period of time where he would work Raw. He would fly out to LA to do the WWE backstage show, and then take a red-eye cross-country to do a live NXT on USA. This is back when it was still airing on Wednesdays. Then he would do SmackDown, then maybe have a day home in his New York City apartment. He would work a pay-per-view, if there was one, on Sunday, and then his week would start all over again with Raw on Monday. So he was a madman, but he was always looking to do more. He was an overachiever in this company, and when he asked them about that, they would always give him the runaround and say, well, you should wait, give it 6 months, give it a year, give it some time to see what happens. But it became pretty clear there was no upward mobility for him. There was nowhere else for him to go. And he was very complimentary of Kevin Dunn in that interview. He worked for Kevin. Kevin was a mentor to him. But when he talks about upward mobility, it's pretty clear what he's aiming for. And when it became clear that the position he was interested in was not going to be opening up anytime soon, he felt that he had to leave before he got bitter. He didn't want to get bitter. He never wanted to get to a point where he became bitter. So he gave his notice a week or two before the pandemic shut everything down. And he finished up with them in May of that year. He let Kevin Dunn pick the date, his final date. And so they had him work 2 more months. And in May, he left the company. He worked as an executive producer for Pat McAfee's show after that. Most recently, he worked for the One MMA promotion. He left there last month. And Tony Khan snatched him up. Many people in WWE saw him as the person to one day replace Kevin Dunn. They saw him as the heir apparent to Kevin Dunn when Kevin Dunn was finally gone. I think it is very telling that he has been hired as the co-executive producer for AEW. Kevin Dunn is the executive producer for WWE. So he may not want to come right out and say it. He wants to be diplomatic about it, or maybe he just really likes Kevin Dunn. But the reality is, it is fairly obvious that he had hopes that that role was going to be opening up and that Kevin Dunn would step aside, or maybe he would scale back his schedule. And when that didn't happen and he couldn't get a straight answer as to when that might happen, he felt, you know what, it's time to go pursue other opportunities. He was very close at one time with Triple H. Dating back to his work with NXT, he was a Triple H guy. Maybe after Triple H took over for Vince McMahon, he thought he might get that call from him, or Dunn would be let go. And when that didn't happen, he, took the position that AEW offered him. It reminds me of David Sahadi. Sahadi worked in production for WWE. He was very highly regarded when it came to their production and their video packages. He also grew disillusioned there and negotiated an exit from the company with Kevin Dunn. This was in 2003. And TNA ended up bringing him in the following year, and he made an immediate impact, pun intended, on their production values. And that was hailed at the time as this is a major hire for TNA. And he spent 13 years there working in that company. Eventually, after he left, he did come back. I think he still works there to this day. But I know there was a break where he had left Impact and then he came back. But in this week's Observer, Meltzer says that Warner Brothers Discovery and Tony Khan have decided to change the look of their shows, with the planned changes going into effect in January. Will Washington of Fightful, to follow up on that, said that a lot of it was in motion weeks ago. There's a whole new slate of ID shots for Dynamite and Rampage that were filmed in Newark over Full Gear weekend, featuring all of the available talent. I know the Young Bucks included some footage on one of their BTE episodes of them filming new promo shots. So they're already working on some stuff. I think some cosmetic changes to the shows are needed. Dynamite has largely looked exactly the same since it debuted. The show doesn't need to be overly polished like WWE. I actually think WWE is too overproduced. I'm not saying that AEW needs to be that, but updating some of the graphics would be nice. Maybe changing the set or having custom sets for special themed episodes. They have Beach Break. We just had Winter is Coming. And there was nothing visually different about Winter is Coming, So I think something like that would be fun. I know Tony Khan is a wrestling fan. I know he watched WWE back when they had custom sets for their pay-per-views. I think he should bring some of that to AEW. WWE isn't doing it anymore. They're obsessed with their CGI graphics. That's one area I think where AEW can differentiate itself. But one thing I hope Mansury does not bring to AEW with him are the annoying camera cuts, which he admitted earlier this year were not a Kevin Dunn idea originally, although Kevin Dunn clearly adopted it, and he grew to like it, and it has infected WWE programming ever since. But it started, the rapid camera cuts did, as something for The Shield in 2012 to create this chaotic feel to their 3-on-1 beatdowns, and it just stuck, and they've used it ever since. And that was Marty Miller who came up with that. That's another director who still works with Kevin Dunn. Hopefully they leave the rapid camera cuts to Stamford. We don't need them in Jacksonville.